Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
This is the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez with you here. Lots to talk about on this. We're recording this Wednesday, October the 6th. We are in full swing. We've got, and it is a busy weekend coming up in the Kingdom. We've got back home conference opener against ECU. We've got UCF Hall of Fame taking place. We've got the hoop schedules came out this week. Bryson Turner is going to talk with us about what's going on with soccer, volleyball, and everything in a little bit. But first, let's talk football, because that is the most important thing that we have going on right now, where UCF finds themselves in an interesting spot. And Drew Glukov, Statboy Drew, joins us here to talk football. Of course, you can follow him at Statboy Drew on Twitter. Drew, what's going on?
Hey guys, how's it going on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon?
I don't know, man. You tell us. UCF's lost their last two on the road. Okay. Lost the conference opener to Navy in heartbreaking fashion. Was up two possessions in the fourth. And then Navy just kind of did Navy things. One key turnover, really good drive by UCF at the end of the game, but they had a goal to go situation. Well, they didn't have a goal to go situation, but because they could have gotten a first down. But I thought that, just to wrap real quick, because what hasn't been already said about this Navy game in Annapolis, I thought that Mikey Keene was great. I thought the game plan for him was solid and well executed. It's just that last, obviously the breakdown late in the game with the turnover. I was scared to death, and I told Matt Loudermilk on Twitter this. He was like, "What's your biggest?" He just threw out the question, "What's your biggest fear about this game?" And I wrote that Navy turns into Navy, and Navy turned into Navy in this game. And granted, we had a shot to win it at the end, but people keep going back to that last four downs. But I mean, that really wasn't what decided the game. That one hurt, Drew. You were watching. I mean, I don't think it's as bad as people think. I think Navy's actually a better team than they look. They just got off to a bad start, but overall, it's like, I don't know. Was this loss as bad as people are thinking?
Well, I mean, Navy had to figure themselves out, and going against a team that has trouble containing the outside was a perfect remedy. And let's think about this. UCF coming in, missing a linebacker, missing top guys on offense.
Yep. And even after the bye week, they had a lot of guys.
All
out.
Three skill positions were missing their number one guy. I mean, the recipe was set for Navy to kind of right the ship, no pun intended. And
I'm not going to give you credit for that one. Sorry. Carry on.
Hence the no pun intended. Navy did Navy things. And what happened in the fourth quarter is indicative of what this offense is meant to do. It's a running offense. It's meant to wear you down. And for a team that lacks depth on the defensive side of the ball, they eventually just started getting beaten down. They were outscored 17-0 in the fourth quarter, which is, what you want out of a running team.
That's what Navy does.
Keep the game close enough that you can, wear them down and then bring yourself back. Mm-hmm. And on offense, everyone's saying, "Oh, Mikey Keene's great." Mikey Keene, he had a good game. There are issues that he has to work on. This was not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah,
he's also a true freshman.
He's a true freshman. First start.
I thought he was. Forgive me for interrupting. I just want to get his stats out there for everyone. because I think people forget the 16 to 26, 178, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Also ran, he went 3 net yards rushing, but
and that pick was at the end. The
pick was at the end of the game. It was the last play of the game, basically.
As a true freshman, and some people complained about the game plan. The game plan was for him to be as much of a game manager as possible, to not have to put everything on his shoulders. Because if you take away the first 3 passes and the final drive, he didn't actually do much.
Right.
Most didn't have many completions, didn't get many yards.
But executed what he was asked to do, I thought, really well.
I think he had the part that I enjoyed watching the most wasn't the yards thing. It was the progressions. He made his progressions. He hit a lot of checkdowns. The Navy's defense was just doing a pretty good job of keeping UCF's receivers in check. Jalen Robinson was out. That really hurt. And I think he did a good job of kind of going through those progressions. That is something that is harder to teach, especially for a true freshman. The rest of it is just the unnecessary details. If the guy didn't get open, okay, he passed to a different guy. Good, things work. The thing he has to work on is touch. Right now, he rifled the ball a lot, and it caused a number of incompletions that shouldn't have been.
He showed some touch a couple of times on those touchdown passes, though. I thought that one to Brandon Johnson.
He threaded the needle on that one.
Whew, that was a throw, baby. Holy smokes.
And he showed signs in the Bethune-Cookman game of being able to hit those really hard precision passes where you have a low percentage chance of error. But the passes to Alec Holler, the 2 that were dropped, one was behind Holler. The other one was just thrown too hard. That was a hard one to bring in. And I've always been a guy in the thought process of, if it hits your hands, you should catch it. But even I was like, wow, that was a rifle shot. So that's part of the experience process. That's why the expectation this year is not so much win the conference title, but development. You don't want to call it a rebuilding year, because it's not rebuilding.
It's a rebuild year now. It's a rebuild year now.
It's a development year, because
I agree with Drew on this.
Rebuild, development's the same thing.
Not really.
We could spin it how we want, but it's a rebuild / developmental transitional year.
I disagree with that, and I'll tell you why. When I hear rebuild, I think the whole thing has crumbled and you have to build it up piece by piece.
Oh, I don't agree with that.
There's a lot of talent that's already on that roster. You just have to develop it. And that's how I view it. I don't know
this is a very talented team.
I see it.
I disagree with both of you. I don't think this is a very talented. In fact, I think this is the least talented UCF roster in a while. And I'm not. And when I say that,
maybe in the upperclassmen, especially
yes, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yes.
This offensive line is incredibly solid, but it's senior laden. The offensive side is pretty good. You're missing a little bit in the running backs in the lower side because you just don't have size. And as a result, no one respects the running game when Isaiah Bowser is not on the field. And that's what happened.
Hey, that's
against
such a huge
Navy.
Loss. Golly.
I think that was probably the biggest X factor. Isn't Dylan Gabriel being out? It's Isaiah Bowser being out, because it redefines the entire offense.
Yeah.
He's their best pass blocker too from the backfield.
He's a Mack truck. He's
correct.
215 pounds. He's a beast, and you can't replicate that. And when he was on the field against Louisville, they crashed the box, much more. Against Navy, Navy didn't respect the run at all. And eventually they were throwing many guys in the defensive backfield. I remember Coach Malzahn saying at one point they had like 8 guys dropping back because they knew they were going to throw it. No one respected the run. So, Bowser, that hurts. But, he was kind of a diamond in the fact that they were able to get him through the transfer portal. They got to work on developing someone else. I remember at one point it was going to be Bentavious Thompson before he got hurt in the offseason, lost a lot of weight, and really lost that ability to be a bruiser back before he left the team. So UCF
Trillian Coles is kind of that, but they ran him 5'7",
5'8".
And they ran him 7 times for 24 yards. That's a 3.1 average, which isn't bad, but it's
not that's not what you need. You need between 4 and 5 to really make it work.
Right.
But
and Johnny Richardson, to his credit, he had 59 yards on 11 carries, 5.4 average.
There's your 5 point, the 5 average that you're looking for. But the one thing UCF's running game lacks without Bowser is consistency. In the case of Richardson, he'd break a few 10+ yard runs that would pad those stats a little bit, and then he would run 1-0, -1.
Feels a lot like last year's run game.
I would say worse. At least last year you had guys who were a little more consistent. They didn't perform how they did in 2019.
Yeah.
But I mean, you had a much better stable of running backs from a size and all around standpoint. I mean, a little scat back should not be your number one guy. That hurts. You need some sort of thunder to go with it, and UCF lacks that without Bowser. But you can get away with a team that only has thunder. You don't have to have a lightning back.
Yeah.
So that put more pressure on Keene, which of course affected the game. Great start. I've always been a fan of his. He needs work. This is how you learn it. However, defense and special teams were unmitigated messes.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up special teams.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the special teams, Eric, because this is kind of, UCF going back to George O'Leary has actually been very good on the special teams, but we're seeing it does seem like we're kind of seeing a downslope a little bit here. And those two mistakes on special teams were catastrophic. Yeah.
Jinx. Well, that's another. I mean, we can nitpick whatever defensive issues they have. If you think about it, and I said this on the night shift postgame with Drew and Bryson, if the special teams was just an average team on Saturday, they win the game. That's how bad they. You have a punt block for a touchdown, which to me was the difference in the game. I thought UCF had a chance to grab that game by the throat. They were up 20-10 at the time. They had the ball. I'm thinking if they could score here, go up 3 scores, this game's a wrap. Instead, they go through. They don't. Then they have the punt block for the touchdown, turned the whole game around, really kept Navy in the game. You miss an extra point. That's another point you cost yourself. And then the 19-yard punt, when you're up 10 in the fourth quarter, you basically are handing Navy the touchdown. And the thing about Navy is, if you keep them in the game, it allows them to run their system and run their stuff throughout the game and to wear you down. That's the problem. UCF never was able to go up 3 scores because of their special teams.
Yeah.
They had this game, and you basically, if you do the math, that's basically 15 points the special teams cost you. You gave up 2 touchdowns to Navy on special teams, and you missed an extra point. So to me, that's what lost them the game. We can nitpick defensive issues. We know that. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, the defense really only gave up 20 points. The special teams cost them 15. The offense was good enough. You know this, Jeff, as a longtime Giants fan. What is Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick, who's now with the Patriots? We always tell you about special teams. How many games of the great Giant teams always win on special teams?
They always want the great Giant teams. And this you could say this about anyway. Great Giant teams were ironclad on special teams. And that's special teams was a weapon.
Yeah. And that's not the case here. So it's complete opposite here. So we can nitpick the defense and the offense and this and that. I mean, I was watching people saying that Mikey Key should have thrown the ball more. I disagree with that. He was fine.
Yeah, he was fine.
He shouldn't have thrown the ball more.
The special teams.
He threw the exact amount of times he should have thrown.
Correct.
That's it.
But the special teams an issue, and that's a big issue because here's the thing. This team has very little room for error, especially without Dylan Gabriel. See, when you have a quarterback like Dylan Gabriel, this is nothing against Mikey Keene. He's just literally just made his first start. He was in high school a year ago, basically. I mean, he
was a high schooler in Chandler, Arizona.
Yeah. When you have a guy like Dylan Gabriel, you can hide a lot of your flaws. But now you don't have that. So, for example, this week's game against East Carolina, which you would have been a heavy favorite with a Dylan Gabriel, with the
Excellent
Bowser.
segue, by the way.
Thank you. I've done this before.
And they're still heavily favored. I'm very confused by the Vegas line here.
Tells you how much they think of ECU. But here's the problem now.
Yeah.
Here's my concern. Moving forward, in my opinion, East Carolina has the better quarterback in this game. Cincinnati definitely has the better quarterback in this game. other teams moving forward in the schedule now either are even or will have an edge at the quarterback, which means your room for error is very thin. Very thin. Add to the injuries to a Bowser, to a Jalen Robinson, which we don't know when they're going to come back. I mean, it's going to be tough here moving forward.
And that was
sorry, Drew, go ahead.
Jeff. That was actually something that I posted about numerous times, and we've talked about, is the fact that the defense was always masked by how strong the offense was. You know, the offense just put up points and made up for the fact that defense, struggled at times. Well, now you don't have that. And, there was a Twitter poll, what are you more concerned about, the offense and defense? And I made a case about the offense for that reason, because the defense hasn't changed. It wasn't great now. It wasn't great then, and it won't be great tomorrow. It's not going to change. But the offense that they relied on to cover for that is gone. And I mean that in a negative way towards Mikey Keene, but as you said, you just don't replace Dylan Gabriel overnight, especially with a true freshman.
Yeah.
You gotta start somewhere and build that up. But I mean, defensive depth is a problem. And it has been a problem. And that's where Navy was able to just beat them down the fourth quarter. Depth is an issue. It was an issue last year, when you had the players, opt out, and then the guys who got dismissed from the team. Depth was an issue. Depth is still an issue. This is, they were basically and this is where the rebuilding comes in. They're rebuilding the defense from the ground up, and they had to bring in some transfers to kind of cover for it. But when your best guys on the defense are transfers, like 1 year transfers,
that was your giveaway right
shows
there. Yes,
that you have a problem. So they're basically, and a lot of people are giving T. Will a hard time, but you can't win the Kentucky Derby with the donkey. You need thoroughbreds. You got to get the right guys for the system. Randy Shannon ran a nickel defense. You're now at more of a closer to a traditional 4-3 with a little bit of flair to it. And you need to get the right guys. You need to get talent. So I expect a lot more guys coming from the transfer portal over the next year as they try to build up those younger class. Because, we always say, give a coach 3 years. This is why you give a coach 3 years.
Late breaking news. It's not getting any easier. This is from 247. Jason Beatty also reported this from the Orlando Sentinel. Eric Gilliard, the senior linebacker, has entered his name in the transfer portal.
Ooh, and he's a starter. He's played he's all 4 games. He's got 23 tackles, half a tackle for loss, no sacks, no picks this year. But he's a workhorse in the middle of that. This is mind blowing to me. 4-star guy who came in, immediately contributed. I know he and
this is a shocker.
Bethune were fighting for playing time.
Yeah.
So
Tatum's been great this year. Right? He really has. I'm pulling up his numbers right now. He's played in 3 games. He's got 15 total tackles. Yeah, he missed the last one, and he was a big loss too. To be honest with you, I think he would have been a real help against that triple O. 1 tackle for loss, 1 pick this year, which was against Bethune. But I guess would you say, Drew, that the end result of this is that Tatum won the job and Eric wants to go somewhere else to get PT, or what?
Well, Eric actually has, if you compare singular games, I think Eric did a better job. Tatum missed a lot of tackles, and he actually called himself out on it.
Yeah,
that he's had some tackling issues this year. So
credit to him for recognizing it.
Oh yeah, I give a lot of kudos for guys who are willing to admit their own mistakes, especially on those fundamental ones.
Yeah.
And I'm a little surprised at this because while Bethune's hurt, Gilliard has an opportunity to shine. I mean, all the linebackers are being overshadowed by Bryson Armstrong, who's finally doing what he was brought here to do, which is be a tackle machine.
Yeah, that dude is all over the place.
Best guy in the defense by far, not even close. And I can see why he was multi-time Big South Player of the Year on defense. And this guy is phenomenal.
Yeah. So spinning it forward to ECU, and I want to set the stage here for this. ECU is 3-2 this year. They lost their first 2 to App State and South Carolina. They won 3 in a row at Marshall, home Charleston Southern, and last week 52-29 against Tulane in their conference opener. Holton Ahlers is back for the 10th year in a row. Last week he threw
only 10. I feel like it's longer than that.
Last week he was 21-32 for 288, 2 touchdowns, no picks. So far this year, of 59%, which is down from last year slightly. 1,266 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. 2 of them were against South Carolina. Another 2 in the win against Charleston Southern, which was kind of weird. Officially, by the way, he's listed as a junior.
They all got the extra
10 more
year.
And here's the story. Like you were saying, Drew, UCF is favored by 10 right now, according to OddsShark. Only 56% of the money is on UCF minus the 10. Over under 6. Let's get this. Over under 67.5. 100% of the money is on the under.
Yeah.
So
I would go with the under on that.
And interestingly, the line started at 9.5 and went up to 10.
I think at one point it was at 11.
Some places had it at 11.
Some places had it at 11. I don't see it here, but let me see the line history here.
Well, here's the thing. East Carolina is one of the weirder teams. They are a team that could be down 21-0 in one quarter, and they could outscore you 28-0 the next quarter. They are very up and down. That's a very challenging schedule. They played Appalachian State, who's pretty good. South Carolina, they played very well against. Marshall, they came from behind in the fourth quarter to win. Mm-hmm. They're averaging 32 points a game. Ahlers has literally faced every UCF quarterback, I feel like, over the last couple of years. I think, right?
Well, no, he never faced Mackenzie Milton, remember?
That was the game Milton missed that we all found out at the same time.
Right.
Who started that game? Was that Mac? It was Mac.
That was Mac, yeah. That was Daryl Mack's first start, yeah.
Mac, I think Quadri Jones threw a throw in that game.
He did.
You had
Quadri Jones' quarterback rating, I think, was infinity after that night.
Yeah, it was a weird game at 18.
No, they didn't even know who he was on the TV broadcast. Like, who is that guy?
Yeah.
But look, Mike
He
Houston
dressed up as a receiver.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, Mike Houston's their head coach. He's been there now a couple seasons. They've been trying to build this up. They've shown they can move the football on UCF. I mean, they've moved the football on them the last couple of years. They just haven't been able to stop UCF. Well, now we'll see if UCF's not at a full strength offensively. We'll see what ECU can do. I would say this, that from you mentioned the point spread. I would stay away from all of that because I think, seriously, this is an
I think that's a wise move.
Because I agree with you, Drew. I feel like that in my gut says that's too high. But Vegas usually knows more than we do. So there's something they know. And I don't know what that is, but they know something. So I would stay away. Because really, you could tell me any prediction in this game, and I would believe it. You could tell me UCF comes out and plays great, and they have a great crowd in the home field, and they win. You could also tell me that Holton Ahlers just dominates and East Carolina wins, and I would believe that too. That's where we're at right now. We're at this point where each game, you just have to focus on that game. It's a toss-up game moving forward. There are no gimmies except UConn because they're UConn. But
hey, that UConn-UMass game, that should have been game day. I mean, that is an epic game.
I know. How could they pick the Red River?
How can they pick that over the conflict, man? Unbelievable.
But no, I will say, we had Chris Vanini on before the season. He said East Carolina was a sleeper team in the league. They could be a team that spoils a lot of team seasons. And one of the things that stands out to me, this week the league announced that Cincinnati and East Carolina has been moved to Black Friday. And I think that's a game that if Cincinnati better be careful about.
That's an interesting matchup when you really think about it. If ECU is the ECU that Chris thought, that's a real dangerous game for the Bearcats. Now, where's that game being played?
Greenville. It's at East Carolina.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
And now it's going to be on Black Friday. It might be the ABC game. By the way, our time slot for that Black Friday game against USF's not going to be good. But anyway, whatever.
Well, they said it was supposed to be either 3:30 or 7 or 3:30 or 7:30, but it's not going to be ABC.
Yeah, it's not going to be. Well, you never know. You never know.
It's going to be like ESPN Plus.
But this is the thing is obviously this defense is going to have to try to slow down Holton Ahlers, right? That's the whole key here. Holton Ahlers, as he goes this offense, and they've started to build guys around him. So to me, as strange as this sounds, I don't know. You can tell me I'm wrong, Drew. I don't think UCF wants to get into a shootout here with East Carolina.
No, not at all. Holton Ahlers is a gunslinger. He can throw for many touchdowns. He can also throw for many interceptions. That's the Brett Favre effect.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
That's
a good comparison, actually.
The guy I'm actually most concerned about is Keaton Mitchell, their second-year freshman running back, and he's good. He's been on fire. 4 out of the 5 games they played, he's averaged over 9 yards a carry, and 4 games he's had double-digit carries. Let's look at this. Appalachian State was 4 for 50. Okay. South Carolina, 14 for 42. That was the bad game. Marshall, 14 for 135, 9.6 average.
What was his long?
I don't have his long. Charleston Southern, 13 for 125, similar average. Tulane, 15 for 222 yards. That's almost a 15 yard per carry average. I mean, just with 2, and he scored touchdowns in each of his last 3 games. I mean, that's a guy I'm worried about because that's a big play threat.
Well, and he provides balance for their offense, and you're right, he's a playmaker.
Now, Drew, before we wrap on ECU, because obviously we know that this is going to be, this is a big game. I mean, I think, what did he see in the game now? So I saw
this
that
is a season reset for UCF. This is a season reset. It's like kind of like
if UCF loses, all right, a win. This is according to the game notes that just came out. A win would make sure the Knights do not fall below 500 for the first time since the last game of 2016, when UCF lost in the bowl game to Terry Mohajir's Arkansas State Red Wolves. The all-time series, by the way, ECU still leads it 10-9.
Right. And now I believe UCF's won the last 5 in a row.
Won the last five. So, injury updates. Do we know anything about Jalen Robinson? Do we know anything about Isaiah Bowser? Do we know anything about even how Dylan Gabriel's recovery is going?
I haven't heard anything other than the fact that it's week to week with the first 2. Obviously.
Now, is that like, do you feel like that's like Gus playing it close to the vest, like week to week, and then all of a sudden one of them is going to show up? Or is it like, week to week, and you're like, I don't know, man.
Well, it's more of, okay, how are you feeling? It's Thursday. How are you feeling? Okay, you're good, you're not good, and you go from there. I mean, they had that about Matt Lee the prior week, not for Navy, but for Louisville. They had him in the same classification. He dressed up, he tried to go, did not work.
Right.
So, I mean, it's basically a coin flip at this point. But I mean, the general feeling is it's not good, but they're at least playing it close enough to the vest. Obviously, Gabriel's injury is, no less than 6 weeks, on a broken clavicle. But they're saying indefinite.
Dang.
Some
years is like some years the bear gets you, and you got to figure out a way through it. And and my hope, as we wrap this segment up, because we're going to take a break here in a segment, my hope is that, all the toxicity that we've seen on social, and I've seen it, man, this has been the worst year, I think, on Twitter. And
this has been horrible. Absolutely horrible.
And Facebook too. But I will say this is that this is, and I said this before, but I really do believe it. This is the time when I think the fan base really needs to rally around these guys and pick them up when they're down, because there's going to be struggles. I mean, there just are. We're seeing it right now. Okay. In a transitional year, and you just gotta stick with them. You got to pick them up, pat them on this is where the fans really need to pick them up, pat them on the back, and be like, it's all right. We got your back. Don't worry about it. Just keep fighting. Just keep fighting, and you'll get there. All right. And when you're there, we'll be, what's the meme? It's like, if you didn't love me at your this, don't love me at your that, or whatever.
It was usually, if you didn't love us at 1 and 15, you can't love us at 2 and 14.
says the Cleveland Browns fan in the room.
Well, I was doing reference to the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I mean,
but like, it's not that bad, but it's like, this team really needs the fan base to step up and be in their corner.
There's a line,
hell or high water. Now's the time.
There's a line between critiquing the team or critiquing players and being hostile. There's a difference. You can objectively critique. That's what we're doing today. Is we're critiquing, but we're not being hostile and attacking players. Hey, you suck. No, we're not. Yeah, but there are people who are attacking players directly on social media.
Mhm.
And the time for that is never, and the place is no place. There's no situation that justifies attacking players' parents, because they see what you write. And
I would say unfairly attacking the coaches too.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I get the way you say, like, they're the ones who make the big bucks, right?
They're the ones that are meant. If you're going to attack someone, you attack the coaches. I'm a man. I'm 40. Come on, Mike Gundy said it great. And
I don't know if Mike Gundy's the proper example to throw out there for
Well, I mean,
I'm just saying.
But he's the one who
is
said,
Mike Gundy. Okay.
I got to attribute to him. He's the one who said, but they're making the big bucks. They're the ones that's part of the job is facing the crowd.
I get what you're saying.
These are kids.
They're part of their job description is fielding the flack.
Yeah, these are kids. They're trying. They're learning. They're going to make mistakes. They're human. A shanked punt. Hey, Andrew Osteen going into that game is second in UCF history for average yards per punt. I mean, he's moved up to sixth in punt yards all time at UCF. I mean, he's not a bad punter. He had a bad punt. It's going to happen. Mistakes happen. Yeah, it was catastrophic for the game, but we have to keep that in perspective. These are people. These are young people.
These are guys who right now they're more than trying. They're trying to figure out this whole thing, because this is a whole different bug. This is not. I think we got a little spoiled by the transition from Frost to Heupel.
Oh,
no,
incredible! They got
us spoiled.
Which was a real
old guys. We get it. We've lived through.
Yes, we've lived through 2 winless seasons,
a 17-game losing streak, multiple losing, seasons under 500. I mean, we're kind of tempered to handle this,
and being so godforsaken thankful that we won a conference championship against Tulsa.
Yeah, 2007, man.
Oh my God, that's the greatest thing that ever happened.
We haven't done squat against
Tulsa and won a conference title.
Beat them twice that year.
I know.
But
anyway,
but going back to you're right. A lot of fans, let me phrase it. A lot of newer fans are very spoiled in the fact that UCF has delivered a lot in a very short period of time, and have these very, very high expectations. I mean, going into the season for our picks, I did not pick UCF to even be in the conference championship game with Dylan Gabriel. Now, without, obviously, all bets everything's out the window. But I mean, I legitimately thought 2 losses, maybe even 3, was a very possible thing with the starters there. I mean, when you change a philosophy that's drastic, it takes time. And Heupel had the benefit that he had killer players. I mean, that's what Frost had. That 2015 was the most talented winless team I've ever seen. And they just needed a guy to bring them back together. And as we saw after he left, maybe it was the players. Well, now we got to work on bringing those players back.
And it starts right now against ECU conference opener. Eric, kickoff is at 6 o'clock. Is that right?
6 Eastern, ESPN Plus. My good friend Courtney Lyle will be on the call.
And you see who he's working with?
Here's
a name from the past. Brandon Whedon.
Correct. Former Oklahoma State quarterback, Dallas Cowboy. He'll be in the analyst role. So
I'd like to point out who drafted him.
Cleveland Browns.
Well, let me tell you something. In Brandon Whedon's defense, that last season at Oklahoma State, he was an absolute stud.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was a man among boys. I mean, he was 28. He
was like 26. He was like Chris Winkie for Florida State out there. Like he was that was as good a college football season as I've ever had. So I hope they're in the. I don't know if they're going to be in the booth there or if they're.
They have been traveling this season, so
I would love to meet him and be like, Brandon, man, I still remember that OK State season, and like you were just a freaking man among boys. That, like you said, Drew, that was great. Thank you, congratulations.
They should have had a shot at that national title.
They should have. That was a good team. Who's Justin Blackman, the receiver? Boy, was he good.
Jag
fans right now are like getting indigestion just thinking about that.
I'm still sore about how that BCS title game went to freaking Bama and LSU.
Oh, that was awful.
And it was a terrible game.
Yeah, it was a crappy game. Anyway, all right. But you know what, Eric, right? If it wasn't for that game, we probably wouldn't have a 14 playoff.
You're right. That was the catalyst.
That was the
it pissed off the Big Ten enough that was the catalyst that changed it all.
So, all right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Eric is going to join us. It will stay with us, really. And we're going to talk some UCF Hall of Fame, one of our favorite topics. And we have a special guest joining us, Afia Charles, former UCF track and field athlete who's going into the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame. Stick around. We'll be right back. It's the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon along with Eric Lopez. Bryson Turner will join us in a little bit. Statboy Drew, thanks to him for hanging out with us. Actually, you're hanging out here for just a second, Drew. I didn't get the chance to read because I suck at Instagram. I didn't get the chance to.
I thought you were going to say I'm not good at reading.
Well, listen, at my other job, I better be good at reading. But anyway, Eric Gilliard, who we talked about in the first segment, announced he is entering the transfer portal. I didn't see his statement, and thanks to Bryson for sending along his statement for Instagram. Let me read this to be fair to Eric, because I think this kind of sheds a little light on what's going on. Dear Knight Nation, this is Eric Gilliard speaking on Instagram. Dear Knight Nation, I want to thank you for the last 4 years. It is with mixed emotions today I announce my goodbye. My time here has been nothing less than amazing. I've enjoyed so much success here, winning one of the most memorable conference championships in school history, many games, and also individual success myself, all for one of the most prominent teams in college football. I'll always hold the memories I've had here along with the people in a special place in my heart. The adversity I've had here that I've dealt with has shaped me into a man. To my teammates, I love y'all boys and believe y'all will get the program back to where it needs to be. However, I feel it is in my best interest that I redshirt this season, graduate this fall, and take my talents to another university. God has a different plan for me. Stay tuned. So it feels like I'm putting words in Eric's mouth here, and I hate doing that, but it feels to me like this might be like an academic decision. He's like, you know what? I want to finish my degree and go to grad school and maybe use my remaining eligibility as a graduate student. And you know what? Good for him. Good for him. I mean, you put the whole reason why these guys come here to begin with is to earn their degrees. And if Eric Gilliard believes that the best path for him to finish his bachelor's and get to a master's degree is to retain his eligibility, one word, because he's redshirted. So he retains his eligibility. That means he would have, is he a senior or a junior?
He's a senior, but because of the extra year.
So he's got 2 years of, he's going to have 2 years of eligibility left.
He's going to have 2 years because you have he could be the redshirt senior and the extra year.
Right. So that's 2 years to get your master's degree. So you know what? Hey, Eric Gilliard, thank you for everything you did for UCF. If it's the right decision for you, we trust you. We're going to miss seeing number 10 out there. I've interviewed him a couple of times. I love talking to him. What a cool dude. But you know, as he's stepping away from UCF, he's making, I think he wants to make the right decision for him and his future and his family. And, you know, good for him. We're going to miss seeing him, but best of luck. And, you know, once a night, always a night. So congrats, Eric. And thanks for everything you did for the program.
Yeah. I'm just curious where he'll end up.
Yeah. Wherever it is, he's going to be earning his master's. I think that's good. So, all right. Let's move forward to UCF Hall of Fame. Eric Lopez, it's the most wonderful time of the year. This is Hall of Fame weekend. So we have 5 inductees. Blake Bortles, Josh Sitton from football, the GOAT himself, Jermaine Taylor from men's basketball. I'm so happy for Jermaine getting into the Hall of Fame finally. Natalie Land, who I know you know extremely well, and you'll have a feature coming out on her this week. And our guest on the Black and Gold Banneret podcast this week, Afia Charles, who is a UCF track and field athlete from 2011 to 2014. If you don't know about Afia, all right, here's her little, she was UCF's very first Olympian. She represented her native Antigua and Barbuda in the 400 in the London 2012 games. This is while she was a UCF athlete. All-America in the 4x400 relay, the indoor 4x400 relay, the outdoor 4x100 relay, and the outdoor 4x400 relay as well. 3 Conference USA outdoor titles when she was here, when Carol Smith Gilbert was here as well. She was her coach. 2 indoor titles, a 5th place finish in the 2013 NCAAs, and helped UCF reach 5th place in the 2013 NCAAs. Knights won the silver in the 4x100 relay. And just to show you how much of an all-around person that Afia was, she was also the president of the UCF Student Athlete Advisory Committee, which if you don't know about SAC, it's an extremely important arm of the UCF athletics support staff and structure. And it's the vehicle by which athletes advocate for themselves and for their sports from an athlete level. And Afia was the president of that. And she's an amazing athlete and an amazing chat too, wasn't she, Eric?
She was. I recently had a chance to catch up with her for her reaction to being inducted to the Hall of Fame. Of course, she's used to being the first. She's the first UCF track athlete to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, coming from an incredible athletic family, as she kind of discusses with me about that, as well as her time at UCF and what is she up to now. Here now is Afia Charles on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. And joining us now here on the Black and Gold Banneret, she is getting inducted to the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame, an Olympian, the first UCF Track Olympian in program history. Of course, All-American, one of the most accomplished athletes in UCF history that ran the fastest 400 meters ever at UCF. I speak of Afia Charles joining us here. First of all, how does it sound now to be, I guess we call you now UCF Hall of Famer, Afia Charles. How does that sound?
It sounds amazing. It feels like, all my hard work at UCF is finally getting recognized. Not even finally, it's just, it takes time. You usually wait till you're 10 years out of graduation. I'm only almost 7. So it feels amazing to know that all my hard work is being recognized. I'm just so excited.
Take us through when you found out, because I know how they usually they'll reach out to the person that's getting inducted and all that. Just take me through the process when you got that call and your reaction when you found out.
So I found out, I want to say about almost 2 months ago, and I found out via Instagram direct message that I was even in the top 10. So when I found that out, I was talking to my husband, Torian Wilson, who actually played football at UCF. And I was like, I think I'm going to get inducted. He was like, you think? He was like, you're the only Olympian that UCF's ever had for track and field. You got it. But, you still in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't want to get my hopes up too much. So then when they sent me another message saying, anticipate a call or a FaceTime call, I was like, okay, that's great. But they said to anticipate it on Monday. And when I didn't get on Monday, I was thinking to myself, okay, I didn't get it. And then Tuesday, I got the call from the AD and I was just elated, excited. It was a great experience. So it was everything I can imagine.
You're going in with Jermaine Taylor, obviously arguably the best youth basketball player ever, Natalie Lane, great softball player, Blake Bortles and Josh Sitton for football. Your thoughts on the class you're coming in? That's one of the strongest classes, if not the best, in the history of that's getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. This class and the 2019 class are probably the top 2 ever.
I'm honored. First of all, I was in school the same time as Blake and Natalie. So it's great that we were around there at the same exact time. So I know what they did in their sports. Blake was legit, as everybody knows. He like set the trend and put UCF on the map, him and that team. And Natalie was great in softball. So I've always seen her work ethic. We were on SAC together, Student Athlete Advisory Council. So that's really cool. So I've always, saw them. We always hang out together. So it's really cool to know that we're all inducted at the same time.
That's right. You all were there in the camp at the same time. That's a pretty strong deal. You are the first UCF track and field athlete to get inducted to the Hall of Fame. And we'll get into some of the athletes you've had and the success at UCF. But when I say that sentence, what does that mean to you that You're making another first. You're the first UCF track and field alum to get inducted to the Hall of Fame. What does that mean to you?
It's still a shocker. It didn't click to me until UCF Track and Field posted my picture this weekend. And then I read it, but it didn't click that it said first until my sister reposted it and said first. And I was like, wait, I'm the first? So I went back and I really read it and took it in. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just crazy that, in UCF small history, even though we're over 50 years, but just to know that, I made my mark and I made it in such a monumental way. So it's amazing to be the first. I know there's gonna be a lot of people after me because UCF Track and Field has some great stars and future and also past. So I know this is not going to be the end for UCF Track and Field Hall of Famers.
No, we're going to talk about some of them, and that because you were part of maybe one of the greatest UCF teams in any sport ever, with a 2013 track team in a little bit. But first, let's talk about the beginning here. What got you interested in being a track athlete? I know your mom was a track athlete. Was that a big part of it? And how did you end up at UCF?
Oh, great question. So I didn't actually start running track until the end of my freshman year in high school. So I was playing basketball and, wasn't that great. And then my mom was like, why don't you just try out for track? So I actually tried out for track in basketball shorts and basketball shoes. And then the coach saw me and was just like, oh, we need you to join our team. 2 weeks later, I was on the traveling squad, went to California. And and when I won my first track meet ever, I was like, oh, I might have a niche for this. This might be my sport. So I just really started to take it seriously. Sophomore year, that was my highlight, my standout year. We won Penn Relays, which is one of the biggest competitions for a high school relay athlete. So we won that. And then it was just like, okay, it's time for me to kind of take it serious when it comes to where do I want to go to school. And I know I wanted to go to a school that, was going to work with me because I was, I've only been running for 4 years. So, and I know I had the potential to go anywhere. I was, getting recruited from Florida, Clemson, all those big time schools, but I wanted a school that would really understand that I am a fresh athlete and, pull out my strengths. And I saw that at UCF, especially with Coach Carroll. I remember when she spoke to my parents, she was like, oh, this is going to be a 50-second quarter mile. This is going to be Olympian. And that's the only coach that actually said that to me. So she was like, she believed that. And then also knowing that my mom was in the Olympics. So I knew that, there's a standard in our family that, we try to excel in the, in the best that we can. Currently, my sister plays in the WNBA. So we have, a lot of people in our family that, we excel. We're a very competitive family. So I just had to. So when I went to UCF on that campus, it's just like, I don't know if you guys believe in God, but I just felt like it was a voice in me and said, this is where you need to be. And from there, I stopped my other visits and I said, this is where I'm going to come. And I chose UCF, and it was one of the best decisions I could have ever made.
Now, for those that may not be aware, tell the audience about your family, because I'm aware. I mean, it's got to be one of the most competitive families that I've ever kind of follow up at. You just mentioned WNBA, mom was an Olympian. Just tell the people who they are and what they do, because I don't know if people are aware of that.
Yeah, of course. So my father, he used to play soccer for his country competitively in high school. He came over, he owns his own business. My older brother, he played sports all throughout high school. Now he owns his own business. Then it's me. So I was in the Olympian and I went to the Olympics. My mother, of course, ran in the 1984 Olympics for Antigua. She ran in the Los Angeles Olympics. My younger brother, he actually went to Canada and played basketball in Canada. And then my younger sister is currently playing for the Connecticut Suns. They're actually the number one team in the league right now. So we're hoping to get a championship out of them this year. So a lot of competitiveness. Uno and Monopoly is crazy in our house. Nobody likes to lose, as you can imagine. So it's very, very competitive household.
That's incredible. I mean, what is it like to grow up in that household? Growing up, that just blows my mind away. Chris, speaking of Kyla Charles, who's obviously the Connecticut Sun WNBA, but that had to be one of the most competitive growing up. Like, I can't imagine you guys not playing sports growing up, right? I mean, you had
All
to.
the time. Yep, sports was always in us, but it was always sports or school. My parents was very, hey, if you're gonna play a sport, you can play your sport, but also make sure your schoolwork is always on, on the forefront as well. But we pretty much all my siblings, except for my older brother, he got a scholarship for academics, got athletic scholarships for school. So we've always, been a very athletic family. Like I said, it's always been competitive. That's just the nature of our family, very competitive.
Well, and that's going to pay off for you because when you got to UCF, there was a lot of competitiveness within the team. I mean, you had some great track athletes. Just talk about something. What was it like once you stepped in to campus at UCF and obviously commit with Coach Gilbert, but seeing the roster that you would be a part of, that it's going to go down as maybe the greatest in the history of UCF Track. What was that like walking into that?
So I definitely learned my lesson really fast. So me and Ariel, we came in at the same time. Ariel Scott, we both went to high school together. So we both it's funny, we didn't even make our decision at the same time. I didn't know she committed to UCF, and we didn't know each other committed because our coach told us, don't base your decision on each other. You guys got to make sure you find the place that's best for you guys. So when we found out we both committed, we were excited, but it also came to a rude awakening because when you're in high school and you're beating up on all your competitors in high school, you're winning states every year. And then you come to UCF where your teammates are beating you in practice every single day. It's like different. So you're learning that lesson even before you get on the track. You have people like Jackie Coward, who, was an absolute beast in the hurdles, but she's also had that endurance in the 4 and the 2. You had Ariel Scott, she was a 1 and 2, but she was always my competition. She pushed me. Sandy Jean-Claude. So there was a lot of competitive people on that team, and it just made us, work hard. I feel like practice was always a track meet. It was always a competition. So I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tivius Freeman was there, Jackie Coward. I mean, I did a top 80 UCF greatest female athletes in 2020, and you all were like within the top 25, and it was hard, to be honest, to separate yourselves because you all were like, it's like a dream team. I'm not exaggerating that. How did you were able to fit in there and your role? Because all of you had roles within the team because 2013, you finished 5th in the NCAA championships in the outdoor championship, the highest finish for a non-BCS, program at the time in track and field, which was unheard of. And it was because Ariel won the national championship in the 60 meter in 2013. So how did you were able to find your role and your strengths, Era, with all this talent? Because you could have been, there was a lot of track athletes there that could have easily been like the star in another program, but they had to kind of fit the roles they could fit on this team.
Yeah, great question. So the great thing about track and field is it's a team sport, but it's an individual sport. So the great thing is that you get to highlight your talents and your strengths based on your event. So although I had amazing teammates and very competitive, I was solely myself and when Ashley Jocelyn, she came a little later, I was solely the only 400 meter runner. So it was just me primarily running the 400. And then when we had like our relays, like the 4x4, then we'll bring in Ariel, Octavius, and things like that. So for me, it wasn't as difficult to kind of find my niche because I knew where I stood on the team. I was that quarter miler. I was that 400 meter runner. That was my event. That was my focus. And that's what I was great at. So I wouldn't say it wasn't as hard for me, but for people like Ariel, Octavius, when they both do the same exact events, it's hard for them to find their niche, but they all had that one event that they always excelled at. So that was good.
And you all excelled in it. You mentioned the 400 meters. Why was that the event that really topped? I mean, you ran the fastest 400 meters ever at UCF. You would end up participating in the Olympics in the 400. What was it about the 400 meters where that was where you really excelled and dominated?
I think for me with the 400, that was just my key event, even in high school. I had the endurance of an 800 meter runner, and then I had the speed of a sprinter. So they were just like, hey, put it in the 400. And I knew that the great thing about the 400 is that it takes time for it. So for me, I'm the type of athlete, I have the speed, but it takes time for me to get up to my speed, get up to my optimal speed. So the 400 was just that race that, was a perfect blend of my strengths, which is high endurance, and then also just the speed, just the natural speed and ability that I had.
You're also tremendous as part of the relay. You were an All-American in the 4x400. You were also in the relays of the 4x100. Talk about the success you had from a relay, because UCF, every time they won, it seemed like you were a part of it, and I don't think that was an accident.
Yeah, yes, I was definitely a part of every relay. Relays has always been one of my favorite events, because that is how we feel more of as a team. Like I mentioned earlier, with track, it's an individual sport. So when you're running an individual race, you're running for yourself. And sometimes when you're running for yourself, you don't have that drive as if you're running with a team. As when you're passing that baton, you're getting that baton from a team, and you know that you're that one if you're that one person that messes up, you're messing it up for your whole team. So it gives you that more drive and that push, and then seeing your teammates at the line, waiting for them to hand off the baton, it just gears you up. So I loved relays. That was one of my favorite things. And I always told my coach, put me on every relay possible, because I knew once I'm on that relay, I'm unstoppable.
Obviously, you make the Olympics. Take us through that process there. 2012, you qualify for the Olympics in London. 28 years to when your mom participated, as you mentioned earlier, in Los Angeles in the 84 Olympics. And people may not be aware of this. Your mom ran the 100 meters, 200 meters in LA as well. And because people might think, oh, well, you're doing the same events that she. No, not the case. You two had some differences, which I'm so fascinated by that. So what was that like? Was there extra pressure that you put on yourself to qualify, not just to qualify for the Olympics, but knowing that your family's history with your mom having been there in LA in 84?
So that's a really good question. So one thing, my mom never pressured me to run track. Like I mentioned, I was playing basketball, and she was like, why don't you just try it? So it was never pressure. She actually did not buy me my first pair of track shoes until she knew I was serious about track. I was running in basketball shoes for maybe about 2 weeks until they were like, oh, Afia's traveling. And she was like, okay, so let me go buy you some track shoes. I want to make sure that you're serious. So she never pushed me. So I never felt that pressure, so to say, in that. But also in the back of my mind, I know that I wanted to be as great or even better than my mom. So I just put the pressure on myself, And when it came to that Olympic experience, it was actually kind of crazy, because at first I didn't know I even qualified. I actually went home for 2 weeks, and I was eating, and I'm thinking track and field is over, for the season, and gear up for the next year. And then I got a call from my country, Antigua, and they were just like, hey, you qualified, right? You're the only woman track and field athlete that we have. Do you want to go? And I was just thinking to myself, yeah. So I actually, maybe 2 days later, I booked the flight, came back to Florida, and me and Coach Carroll, we had about 3-4 weeks to get me back in shape, because it only takes a week to get out of track shape. So we had a couple weeks to get back in shape, and I was working with Dee Trotter. She was training with us at the time. She actually won the bronze in the Olympics that year. So me and Dee were back to back every day, just working, tweaking a few things, but we just got ready for the Olympics, and it was just a great experience overall.
What was it like? You described how you found out once you knew you qualified for the Olympics. Once you stepped in to the track up there in London, what's going through your mind as you're there, the biggest event? Here you are in this event 28 years ago. Your mom was in a Los Angeles track. Here you are in the London track, one of the most watched events ever. What's going through your mind there?
Oh, man. So just seeing the crowd. So there was like over 100,000 people in the crowd. And I just remember, my dad, he wasn't able to make it to the Olympics, but he made sure that my mom can go. He was like, okay, if I can't make it, then I'm buying you the flight, I'm buying you the ticket. I need you there to represent, so I see a familiar face. And it's actually crazy. When I walked out the crowd, I was walking to the line to my blocks, and I don't know how I heard her voice, but I heard my mom's voice, and I literally saw her in the crowd, and I was just like, I'm ready. Like, it just gave me that, I just felt like at peace and comfort, and to be able to point her out out of over 100 and 100,000 people and just hear her voice and just hear her and see her, it just made me, when I walked on that line, just, feel like peace and like I deserve to be here. So it was an exciting moment.
That's amazing. Describe what's it for those, because there's not been many people that have been in your shoes, especially from UCF. Michelle Akers obviously comes to mind. Alina Reyes, who got inducted recently from soccer. She's been to the Olympics and expert. But to have that, to say you're an Olympian, when you look back on that, and who knows, with the family track record you all have down the road, you might have a family member, right? You might have a son or a daughter that might go to pursue the Olympics. What would you tell that son or daughter, if you have, about your experience and when you look back?
One thing I would definitely tell them is for the Olympic experience, you don't take anything for granted. Just being there is an experience. Just walking into I tell people, just walking into the cafeteria and you're seeing greats or the best athletes from every single country in the world right there. And they're normal people. They're people just like you and me, but in their country, they're stars. So being able to go into an arena and just say, like, anybody, if you put the hard work, the dedication, anybody can do this. They were regular people. It was like, not like they had any superpowers or they look any different than you and I, they just had the opportunity. So when you get that opportunity, just cherish that moment and just know that it's something that it was life-changing for me. It showed me that I deserve to be in any room that I set my mind to. And it just set the trajectory of my career. And I know that, and every time now that I'm in a room, I feel confident. I'm like, hey, I'm Olympian. Why am I nervous? I accomplished so much already in my career and I just have to continue to do so.
Of course, this past summer, we had the Olympics and Renaya Jones was in the forefront from a UCF standpoint. Trying to qualify for the Olympics. She finished second in the NCAA championships, participated up in Oregon. Were you able to follow what she was doing? Because she kind of took a lot of UCF fans following, and social media has kind of helped in that with the coverage and everything. And it really, a lot of UCF fans jumped on that and the track and field. Were you able to follow what Renaya was doing?
Yes, I didn't follow it until maybe I want to say until regionals. And then I really start seeing her name and seeing what she's doing. And I'm like, wow, this girl's a beast. And she's so young and her personality is so bubbly. And that's what you need. You just need someone who's just carefree and just having fun with it. Because sport is, any type of sport, especially track and field, is very mental. So once you start playing that mental game and you lose that fun out of it, it changes how you perform. So to see how much fun she was having, how she was always smiling, her interviews, it shows that if she keeps that same mentality, that same, perseverance, I have no doubt that she'll be Olympian one day. She'll win nationals next year, that she'll go far. And she will most likely be a UCF Hall of Famer as well in the future.
She was just a freshman in doing it, too, which is what kind of blows me away. And she handled all the expectations very well. As Shira Collins, her teammate, was also in the NCAA championships. They're part of this youth movement in track that, honestly, it compares to the group that you were a part of when you all came in at the same time. I know Dana Boone's the new head coach there. That's kind of their vision there as they kind of develop. But I don't know if you've been able to follow the track there, but people are interested in UCF track. And I think you're a big part of that. And I think it's perfect that you're getting inducted in an Olympic year and just fresh off Renaya Jones really making headlines for UCF track, because there's a lot of UCF fans that are looking forward to the upcoming track season because of her.
Yep, exactly.
Tell me about Coach Gilbert, what she meant to you, Carol Smith Gilbert. She went on to USC, won a national championship, and she just became the head coach at Georgia. In fact, she's the director of track over there at Georgia. So she's making her own history. But what was it about her that drew you to go and commit to her and has made her why is she so successful?
So one thing about Coach Carol is that she is one determined and persistent lady. She definitely one of the things that I admired from her and what she always used to tell us is never take no for an answer. Always go after what you want. And I'm not even surprised that she's so successful. I was just actually writing her on Instagram and I told her, like, you're the GOAT. You're the greatest of all time. Like, the things that you've accomplished is unmatched. And I know when she first told her that she was leaving, I was sad, but I knew, like, UCF wasn't the the end for her. I knew that her talent, her name deserved to be nationwide, and USC was perfect for her. She got that national championship that she deserved and she worked for, and I know she's going to do great things at Georgia. But Coach Carroll was a great influence in my life. And she was the type of person, the type of coach that you just admired and you wanted in your corner. You wanted to have that coach to coach you because she knew your strengths, she knew your weaknesses, and she knew how to pull it out of you, whether you liked it or not. And that's one thing that I can definitely say is that she pulled, my strengths out of me.
You were a part of 3 outdoor Conference USA championships, 2 indoor Conference USA championships. I mentioned earlier, 2013, UCF finished 5th in the NCAA championships, the first non-Power 5 program since 2000 to earn a top 5 finish in the outdoor championships. You were All-American. You still hold the 400-meter record. You were at 52.4. Do you remember when you broke that 400-meter record?
Yes, I do. It was Conference 2013. Yep, 2013 conference. We were at was it Rice? Yep, and we were in Texas. That was one of the highlights of my career, especially at UCF. My fastest time actually was able to have my country's national record with that time as well. So it was a great race, and that was when I knew, okay, I got this. That was my year. We had a great year. I mean, it was just a great year for UCF, period. That's when we won the Fiesta Bowl my junior year. We won the Fiesta Bowl for football. We won, the conference championship. So that was just a great year for UCF all the way around.
Well, and what was so amazing about that, during that time frame, UCF at the top, you got Houston, yeah. Leroy Burrell, Carl Lewis, their tradition there at Houston. What was that like to go up against Houston and, being among the best in the country? These are the goats of track and field. These are legends. They're all, you're all kind of coaching here and involved, and some of the great athletes that have been produced at that time.
Yeah, so Houston was always one of our top competitors. Houston and ECU was always really good competitors with us, especially Houston on the sprint side. We were always neck and neck when it came to sprints, 100, 200, 400. So we always knew that if we're running against Houston in a race, we were going to run one of our fastest times. So, and I liked running against them because they pushed me and they made sure that I PR. They helped me win these records. But it was always good to have competition with track and field. That's what you need. If you're in a race with with people who are not running fast times, you're most likely not going to run a fast time because you're going to be in the lead, or you're not having anybody toe and toe actually pushing you throughout the whole race. You get lax. So I loved running against Houston because from start to finish, they were right there and they pushed me and they didn't allow me to relax in between my races and things like that. So allow me to, run those fast times and do what I had to do to win.
We mentioned you're the first UCF track and field alum to get inducted to the Hall of Fame, but we both agree you should not be the last. They definitely won't be the last. Just let's talk about some of your teammates here, and you can name as many more as you want. I'll name a few to start. Octavius Freeman, Ariel Scott, Jackie Coward, those 3. Start with those 3. Why were they so great? I think all 3 have legitimate cases to be in the Hall of Fame down the road. I know they're not alone in that, of all your teammates, but they're the ones that kind of stood out to me. Your thoughts on them?
So definitely Jackie Coward. Jackie Coward has been a beast since high school and beyond. I remember even coming into UCF, and they're like, you're going to be in school, you're going to be running with Jackie Coward? And back then I didn't know the magnitude of her name until I was actually her teammate and I saw her work ethic. Like, Jackie was a workhorse from start to finish. Track is what she bled. Track is what she loved. And it showed in her work ethic and how in her races, always finishing top 8, always making a final. So Jackie is one person that I admired and I saw, and she pushed me. Ariel, like I mentioned, we went to high school together. We grew up together. So I know the work ethic of Ariel. Ariel was a beast. Ariel's the type of person that can that can roll out of bed and run a fast time. No, just pure natural talent. And she was just one of my favorite people to train with and to watch, because her talent wasn't just limited. She could run anything between the 1 and the 4 and win every event and win each one if she needed to. And she was a team player. Whether she was hurt, whether she wasn't feeling well, she would jump on that line and say, I got you, coach. I'll do it for the team. So she was one of my favorites, and she's still one of my best friends. And then Octavius was just pure talent, so natural. She was the type of person that no technique needed, but she would just run fast. You just tell Octavius to go and she would go. Her specialty was the 1 and the 2, but the 1 was, that was her top event, and she just always excelled at it. No matter what, she was our anchor leg in the 4x1 in that relay, and she killed it. She helped us get that second place finish. So she was amazing. So definitely people that deserve that Hall of Fame title.
By the way, that 13 team, too, they also induct teams. They've had a cheerleading national championship team. The 1978 volleyball national championship team has been inducted to the Hall of Fame. I think that 2013 outdoor team in particular should get consideration, considering what you all accomplished. I mentioned, just blows my mind. 5th place. We won't have to worry about this anymore. We're moving to the Big 12 now, so they'll have more resources. But we didn't have the resources of some of the big brands. What made that 13 team such a legendary team?
I would say, I think that with that 13 team, we were just on a different mindset. We knew in 2000, the year before, we were winning championships, but we just knew it was like something about 2013 was just different for us. We just knew the talent that we had, and even people that weren't even that we didn't even mention, like Sandy Jean-Claude, who, that year she made it to nationals in the 400-meter hurdles. We had our Sanisha Williams, who was our long jumper, Jen Clayton, who was our long jumper. So we had a lot of talent on that team, and everybody pushed everyone. I think that year is when we said, we deserve to be in nationals. We deserve to be a national winning team. And our mindset that entire year was nationals focused. We did a lot of mental training. We did a lot of workshops to strengthen our mental that year. And that's what we needed, because like I mentioned earlier, track can be a very mental sport. So when you have that mental block, it can affect your racing and it can affect your competition. So that year was just different. From the start to the finish, Coach Carroll said, we're going to be one of the top teams this year. And that's what we did. Amazing.
Couple last things. Tell the UCF fans, what have you been up to post UCF, post your track career?
All right. So great question. So earlier this year, I got married. I got married to my college sweetheart, Torrin Wilson. He was the left tackle at UCF, number 72. Currently, I am a manager at a hospital. And then I also just started my financial services business as well. My dad was, in this business, was doing it for about 20 plus years. And he was just like, hey, you're the beneficiary. So I actually started taking it seriously. So I help people with financial education, personal, finance, investments, and life insurance and things in that area. And then also providing them with opportunities to make some additional money and, on the side. So it's just great to know that. And I always see this in I take track and put this in my everyday, work as well when it comes to when I'm working at the hospital as a manager, and then also my side business. I'm just, trying to be competitive and be one of the best out there, learn, educate, and things like that. So that's kind of what I'm doing now.
I have to ask the follow-up for a football audience. First of all, I was a big Torrin Wilson fan myself. I was a great lineman. UCF. Did you know each other when you're both going to school? Did you meet afterwards? How did you both come up?
So Torrin and I met freshman year. So we met freshman year in high school. Two of my teammates was actually freshman year in high school. We met freshman year in college. Me and Torrin met freshman year in college in August. Two of my teammates, Sandy and Destiny, were actually his high school. They went to high school with Torrin. So we've been together since 2010 in high school, August 2010. We've been together ever since. November is going to make about 11 years since we've been official. So Torrin was one of the huge supports during my track and field career. Every time we had a track meet at college or on campus, he was right there running alongside with me on the fence and things. So he's been a monumental part of my success at UCF, because he's always helped keep me level. When I wanted to freak out and I wanted to quit, he was the one pushing me. He was like, your practices are nothing like how mine are. You can do it. So we were always like just pushing and motivating ourselves, motivating each other during our careers.
That's a remarkable. I had no idea you two had that long time relation. That's pretty wild. I mean, and the fact you both were athletes at a high level, that has to be, I mean, there has to be that bond in there. Obviously, both being athletes can relate to each other, what you're going through, even though it's different sports.
Yep, very much so. And we both, 2013 was both our years. He won, he was part of that team.
Oh, that's right.
For the Fiesta Bowl, and I won, had the fastest time that year. So that was, we always say that was one of our best UCF years.
That was one of the best UCF years, period, right? And you two set the tone. You set the tone for football. That was good. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I did not know that. By the way, your family, that is. You realize if you have kids there, the sport. Who's the more competitive of the two of you? Who's the more competitive?
It's funny. We actually played Uno this weekend, and I can't even tell you. We were sending videos to our family, and they were like, "Both of you guys are crazy." They're like, "Both of you guys studying at the same things." We are very highly competitive. We compete each other, but that's what we need. We push each other. We push each other for our goals and our dreams. So I couldn't even tell you who's more competitive. We're just like on an equal level on that note.
Well, he's got to be excited about this class, having played with Blake and then with you. I mean, that for him, it's this has got to be surreal for him. I would imagine for him.
Yes, he is super excited. He's like, "Oh man, I'm so excited for you. You deserve it." And he's gonna be able to see Blake. I believe Blake came to one of Torian's camps a couple years back, but it's good just to see them back on campus, and that's what we're looking for. Just going back on UCF, seeing the changes that has come about, and just we're back in our old stomping grounds where it all began.
Y'all gone to any football games recently? I
haven't been to a football game in maybe 3 years, so I am so excited for this one.
Okay, so we're going to get honored at halftime along with this great class, and rightfully so. Congratulations. You've done a great career, and being honored, well-deserved, significant for track and field. Thank you so much for taking the busy time, and again, well-deserved. UCF Hall of Famer, Afia Charles. That's a good ring. Has a nice ring to it. Congrats. Thank you for doing this, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric.
All right. Thanks again to Afia Charles Wilson, who joining us. Of course, you heard right there her husband, Torian Wilson, who played, obviously, football with Blake Bortles, ironically enough, who's in this Hall of Fame class. Her sister's with the Connecticut Sun in the WNBA playoffs. Pretty athletic family. Her mom, obviously, part of the Olympics, but really, really impressed by Afia. Well-deserved of this honor, part of this great class, and really excited for her. And we'll have a feature on her, including exclusive comments from Carol Smith-Gilbert, who's now the director of track and field at Georgia and her former UCF head coach. That'll be on our Black and Gold Banneret site this week, as is our feature on Natalie Land. By the way, happy birthday, Natalie Land. Wednesday, as we record this, Wednesday is her birthday.
Birthday, Nat. All right, so let me ask you this. So we've congrats again to Afia. I mean, she deserves it. There's no doubt about it. Let me ask you this, Eric. Track and field alumni right now. Who's the next one who's going to get inducted?
Glad you asked. If you go to our YouTube page and subscribe and like our YouTube page, myself and Bryson Turner did a special night shift edition this week on the Hall of Fame. And one of the topics we broke up was that. I think the answer is Jackie Coward, to me, who you've covered, Jeff, and you've interviewed.
She was the first ever interview on Black and Gold Banneret. Very
wow.
Yeah.
And you could make the argument
she was going to the Olympics.
You can make the argument she probably should have been the first track athlete, although, again, Afia making the Olympics in an Olympic year really makes a ton of sense. Jackie Coward, Octavius Freeman, and Ariel Scott, I think, are the three names to watch. And I said on the night shift edition with Bryson, those three should be in within the next decade. And I think Afia, and we talked about that with Afia in the interview, they all should be in. What they met to this program, that 2013 team, they were finished fifth in the NCAA championships, the highest ranking for a non-Power 5 program at that time. I think those three should be in within the next decade. I think Afia getting in should open the floodgates for track and field athletes and cross country, perhaps, to start getting inducted into the Hall of Fame.
I hope so, because we've seen a long-term development of that program into, I think, a real power. And once you, this is, by the way, you talk about a program that's going to really make leaps and bounds when they get to the Big 12. I think track and field is going to make a big jump.
A lot of young talent there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Mm-hmm.
And when you get that, when you get that power conference tag, and you start recruiting in some of the places that UCF can recruit, oh boy, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. So congrats to Afia. Congrats to all of the inductees, to Blake, to Natalie, to Josh, and of course to Jermaine.
Friday night's the big ceremony. Yep. Saturday they'll be honored during the game.
It will be at the ceremony will be at the Celeste Hotel, which is the new hotel that opened up along Afia Trail on the front of the university. 6 p.m. cocktail reception, followed by dinner program at 7. And of course the 5 inductees will be honored during the football game on Saturday, which of course is the 6 p.m. Kickoff. And like Eric said, don't forget to watch that edition of Night Shift where he and Bryson break down the Hall of Fame class. Definitely worth watching, because if you're a UCF history buff like we are, that's a lot of fun to really talk about. So, all right, let's take a break. We come back. Lo and behold, Bryson Turner is going to join us. We're going to talk about the Olympic sports. Volleyball continues their hot start. Big weekend coming up for men's soccer, and plenty more when we return. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Back after this. Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez with you, joined by Bryson Turner to talk about the world of UCF sports. Let's start with volleyball. They have won, Bryson, 7 matches in a row and have only lost in that process some 5 sets. They went on the road for the long road trip, which is Tulsa and Wichita State, and they came out of there with a win. I thought that the Wichita State match was going to be tough. They won that one in 5, and then they came back. Tulsa gave them a little bit of a run, but they beat them in 4. They come back home for Houston and Tulane this week. Houston is much improved. I think they're going to be that's going to be a tough out. But let's talk about volleyball here. We had some obviously we had a milestone with Amber Olsen hitting 2,000 assists for her career, which is huge. And this team, they really haven't been beaten by anybody since the South Carolina match. And the reason why I say that is they lost to Georgia on September 11th, which is their only loss since in the last month. But that was a 5-setter. That one could have gone either way. I think it went 16-14 in the 5th. So that's kind of like a coin flip. This team is hot right now, man. And, I'm looking at, and their RPI is 17th. And that RPI is going to drop a little bit more because they're playing the conference slate. So they got to just keep winning. But, right now, Todd Dashman's got to be pretty happy, right? This team's in a good place.
Oh, yes, I agree with that. And one thing that I really do not want to understate is obviously McKenna Melville was McKenna Melville. But looking at the individual stats over the course of these 2 games, freshman Caitlin Grimes had a career high 13 digs in the Wichita State game.
She's been really good.
In the Tulsa game, freshman outside hitter Heidi Bondi had a career high 16 kills. So I think one thing that's very that's very understated in volleyball this week is it's not just McKenna Melville and Amory Watson. We have some really good depth going on the volleyball roster at the moment.
Young talent too. Those 2 players you mentioned are freshmen, Caitlin Grimes and Heidi Bondi. And Todd has told me that they are like the next generation. They're the post McKenna, post Anne Marie kind of horses that they're hitching their saddle to, right, Eric? I mean, that's encouraging to see them really getting that playing time and succeeding in that playing time.
But that's the advantage when you have a McKenna Melville. You have that room for margin where you could develop your young players and play them, which football doesn't have with Dylan Gabriel. This is the opposite of football. I mean, I watched the Wichita State match, which they were down 2-1. When we looked at the schedule, I remember we said this last week. I know you weren't with us, Jeff, but I said Wichita State, that was a match you circled in Wichita that could be a match that could be in danger of losing. It's down the road. And they were down 2-1. UCF responded. And in the 5th set at the end of the day we got McKenna. They don't. She is amazing. Hand her the player of the year already.
She's an alien, man.
She's amazing, but it allows the young players to play to their roles and not force feed them. And then the Tulsa match, they went on the road. That's a big road swing there for UCF. Now they come home. This is probably their toughest home stretch with Houston and Tulane. Houston could be arguably the second best team in the league. Remember, we thought they might play in the championship this coming year, but they lost in the semis. I'm looking forward to that match. And then Tulane, I know you've always been impressed with them. They're kind of scuffling a little bit, but they still have talent there.
Yeah, well, here's a little bit on Tulane. They're 3-1 in the conference, and their only loss was to Houston at home in 4 in what was a pretty tight match. As far as Houston's concerned, they lost their opening conference match to Tulsa in 5. Since then, they've won 3 in a row, including at Tulane and obviously the Tulane match we're talking about, but also at Temple. They also beat Wichita State at home. So Houston comes in right now, and I want to take a look at the standings. UCF leads the standings in the American at 4-0. They're all alone right now. In the volleyball standings, you have 4 teams behind them at 3-1: Houston, Cincinnati, Tulane, and SMU. And like you said, this is the toughest home weekend that UCF volleyball has. We'll see how it shakes out the rest of the year, but I think this is key. Houston's 13-3 overall. Tulane's 10-6 overall. Tulane gave UCF some problems. I really like Lexi Douglas. She's one of the best players in the conference for Tulane. This is another. If UCF can take care of business at home this weekend, I think that's going to be a real.
If I had to rank who the likeliness of them losing a match at home this weekend could be it with the back-to-back with Houston and Tulane. This is an interesting stretch. We'll see how they respond. But again, you got to feel good when you have number 20 on your side of the net. That helps. She just dominated.
She's the ace of spades in your back pocket.
She's having her best year, Jeff. She's having her best year.
And by the way, she still has one more year to go. Okay. And you look at the stats, Bryson, look at this. She is first in the country in points. Okay. 339.5. She's second in the country in total kills with 293. And she's third in the country in total swings with 766.
If she doesn't make,
if I could whistle, I would whistle at that.
If she doesn't make an All-American, and I'm not talking about honorable mention, which she's done the last 3 years.
All-American.
First or at least second. First or second. She has to. If not, I'm sorry, Todd, but and you all volleyball fans, but then your All-American system is a joke if she's not. I'm sorry. I will not even give any credence to it if she doesn't. Yeah. She deserves it.
One thing I want to make sure we watch for in this Houston game for UCF fans to pay attention to look out for senior setter Amber Olsen, because you mentioned earlier she broke 2,000 assists, but during that stretch, she had a career high 51 assists in the Wichita State game, and then followed up with her second best career performance with 49 assists in the Tulsa game. So, because of that, she broke 2,000 assists, and she is currently in striking distance of her sister. And if she puts on another performance like she did this weekend, she could very well pass her sister in the Houston match. So that's a little storyline that would be nice for UCF fans to look
I know this for a fact. I don't know if Amber listens to the podcast, but Amber, if you're listening, I know for a fact that you would like nothing more than to pass your sister in the all-time assist list. I know that for a fact, because those two are something else. They are so competitive. And, Erin Olsen was an outstanding setter for UCF when she was here. She was the straw that stirred the drink, and Amber came up right underneath her and has developed herself into a fantastic athlete. So Amber, we're really happy for you. Congratulations. Keep up the good work. And boy, it's fun to watch her run the offense. She's a Swiss Army knife out there. And by the way, the thing I love about Amber Olsen the most, whenever she gets a block, she's so tall as a setter. She gets blocks at the net, and that's like a big boost, a big emotional boost for the team every time she does that. So, couple of things I wanted to with Houston. They are a really good defensive team so far this year. Number 1 in the conference in, George Glades for Houston is 12th in the country in digs per set, first in the conference, and then really good setter for them. Annie Cook is first in the conference in assists. So be mindful. A very good defensive team. Rachel Tullis leads the American in blocks. So they're going to present a good challenge for UCF's offense. So we'll see what UCF can pull off in that first match. Eric, let's move on to, and Bryson, let's move on to women's soccer here, because they are in a bit of a lull right now since they've started conference play. They are 0-2-1 in conference. They tied SMU last time out on Thursday. They lost 2-1 at home to Memphis in, of course, that rivalry game. But now they have an even bigger rivalry match coming up on Thursday night, 6 p.m. against South Florida, a team who has been their bugaboo. This is their only time that they will play the Bulls this season. It is at home. And all of a sudden, we're looking at the schedule. They got 5 games to go in the regular season. And this is crunch time for women's soccer, right? So what are we seeing right now?
Well, let me just jump in here, Bryson, because
go ahead.
Let's jump in the RPI, because now this is part of the story, Jeff. What's the RPI for women's soccer?
Women's soccer right now, I'm seeing 34.
So you're getting right into that bubble range right now. To me, this South Florida match is almost a must win, because this is going to be their last quality on the resume match the rest of the season. The rest of the season, they're facing teams that have not great RPIs.
Now they did draw SMU, who's 20th. Yeah. That's the top ranked American team in the RPI.
Correct. Yeah. But I think they got to win this match, get a result. And obviously the story, Bryson, is Caroline Delisle, because she was the story in that SMU match. 11 saves. We haven't seen that from a UCF goalkeeper in a long time, haven't we?
No, we have not. You would not believe the research that I had to go to in order to figure this one out, because, but the last time that a UCF women's goalkeeper had more than 11 saves or more was Jennifer Manis back in 2007 in a game against.
I remember Jen. I think she was playing when we were seniors, right, Eric?
That sounds right.
Yeah,
that's 07. Yeah, that sounds about right.
So yeah, but Caroline Delisle has honestly really been the center of this team. I mean, Kristen Scott and Ellie Moreno have done a very great job on offense, but considering how many shots have been shot her way, Caroline Delisle's way this year, I mean, she is definitely the centerpiece of this team, I would say.
The problem I think you see right now, Eric, you're right about this. With 5 games to go, you got to start putting results up, because here's the story. Right now, UCF has 0 points in the conference. They're 0-2-1. South Florida 2-0-1. So that's it. That's 7 right there for them. Now you can start to put dents in it, right? Because you're not going to get the one back against Memphis, who's in second. You already drew SMU, who's in fourth. You still got 1, 2, 3, 4 teams ahead of you remaining on the schedule. But like you said, you got to start putting up 3 points.
Yeah, because your non-conference resume is good enough to make the tournament, but you got to get some results in the conference. You don't want to play. You're playing yourself backwards. They got to get a result against South Florida. They got to get a result. If you don't, you're pretty much out of the conference regular season title. Now you're just battling to make sure you make the conference tournament and things like that, because your RPI is not going to improve based on the opponents that you got coming up. So you got to get a result here. It's your big rivals. It's at home. We'll see what happens. This is a very uncharacteristic Coach Sahedek team. They give up a lot of shots. They've given up an average so far twice as many shots than they have normally in a Sahedek typical team. Going back to 2019, the normal year, they've given up twice as many shots on average than they did 2 years ago.
I would also say that, SMU drawing against SMU at the very least slows their downward momentum they've been having. If there is a time now, you said it's crunch time. This is definitely crunch time, because you lose 2 straight, you draw against the top team in RPI in the conference. So this is going to be a very important game for women's soccer this season for sure.
South Florida match is slated. I just lost it. There it is. It's slated for 6 p.m. on Thursday, and then that quick turnaround Sunday at 1 against Tulsa. By the way, looking at the standings, of course, we talked about South Florida being 2-0-1, 7-2-2 overall, first place in the American. Tulsa right now is tied for 6th in the American with Temple at 1-2 in conference, 6-5-1 overall. So I think if you can get through South Florida, find a way to get that 3 points. You can get that. You pick up another 3 at Tulsa. All of a sudden, you get a 6-point weekend. That's going to be huge. That's going to be a big boost. By the way, I made a mistake that there's 0 points. They're actually at 1 point in the standings.
The SMU got your draw point.
Yeah. So So that's where we stand on that. Men's soccer. That 4-game win streak that they had, Bryson, got snapped on Sunday against Memphis at home in a game this is just a bizarre result. 3-0 win for Memphis. This one was just weird. I don't know what happened in this. It felt like
I can tell you.
You know what it felt like? Okay, you ever played Madden? And
yes.
And like there's one game a season, you can have it on easy mode, but there's one game a season where the computer just decides you're not winning. Right. And that's what this game felt like. So it dropped UCF to 3-1, tied for second with SMU behind 4-0 Tulsa, who was number 6 in the country and who the Knights play on Sunday, October the 10th at 6 p.m. That is a huge game.
Ranked number 5, right?
I on the UCF schedule, they're ranked number 6. Let me double check the.
That's pretty still good ranking. Here's my thoughts on this. This is where UCF has to start building their resume in men's soccer.
Yeah.
These 2 games, Tulsa, SMU. If they want to get back to the NCAA tournament, they got to get results against Tulsa and SMU in particular, and obviously stay at the top of the league. But this is a huge match from a resume. UCF doesn't have any marquee wins to this point in their resume. They have got to get some results here against these teams if they want to make it back to the tournament. And this Tulsa team has been coming along since the spring. They have carried that momentum since the spring, Jeff. You saw them. That was the championship match. This is a rematch of the conference championship game. Yeah,
and that was a competitive conference championship match too. Tulsa's on the way up here. I was impressed with them last season. This is, we don't have an RPI yet for men's soccer. The official RPI has not come out yet, but if they can get that result against Tulsa, pull them back. It does 2 things. I'm going to boost UCF's national ranking, okay, because you're beating a number 5 or 6, whatever team, and it pulls Tulsa back to the field in the conference standings, and that's huge because I thought one of the big factors was UCF won the conference regular season title and got to host the championship last year. I think that was huge. I think that's really going to be really big for their resume here because Tulsa's that much more competitive this year. So you got to get every advantage that you can. So Tulsa, and then they have a week off. They go on the road to SMU next Saturday, but that's again, ESPN Plus, 6 p.m. Sunday. Be there or be square, man. That's going to be a huge one.
It is a huge one. And here's a big thing that I want to bring up for that game. Tulsa and UCF are tied for 8th in scoring offense, which means that if they're relatively
a lot of scoring.
That means that the UCF defense is really going to have to play this time. And considering how UCF's goalkeeping has been this season, I am a little concerned for that Tulsa game. Looking at the Memphis game, here's the reason that I think they lost that game is that Colin Welsh, the freshman goalkeeper for Memphis, had in himself a day.
He was great.
UCF shot the ball at him 16 times, 7 on goal. He saved all 7 of them. And then Memphis's offense just got extremely lucky. 5 shots on goal out of the 6 shots they had. So I would just say but the thing is that Tulsa's goalkeeper has the second most saves in the conference. So this is definitely going to be a test for UCF's offense, but I would be looking at the goalkeeping in the game against Tulsa because I think that could be the difference maker.
According to RPI Update menssoccer.blogspot.com, which is the unofficial RPI tracker for men's soccer before it gets to the NCAA, right now, UCF's RPI is, that's not it. Where is it? I don't see it. Why don't I see it? That's kind of weird. 102 right now. Tulsa's RPI, care to guess?
I'll put it in the top 10, 15.
How about second? That's a huge opportunity right there.
Oh boy.
Second.
Yeah, that's gonna be a game.
UCF is 0-1 against the top 25. That one loss was to Virginia Tech earlier this year. They're 24th in the RPI. And don't forget, UCF will get another shot at Tulsa to wrap the regular season. But this is a tremendous opportunity. You want to get them at home because you don't want to have to get them on the road if you can avoid it. So Yeah, this is a big opportunity for Coach Calabrese's guys. All right, let's talk a little golf here, Bryson. I want to see, because we had women's golf, which I know you're excited about. Won the Evie Odom Invitational which was held or hosted by Old Dominion in Virginia Beach. Their third top 5 finish in as many tournaments that they played. Hey, congrats to the Knights, because they got, if you look at the team leaderboard, they were really outstanding. Finished at 1 over par as a team. The player stats, looking them up right now. Okay, here it is. Pat Pidden led UCF and won the individual medalist with a total 200 score. And then in addition to that, Jess Baker finished tied for 16th. Camille Banzé finished in 18th, and Zoe Alau finished tied for 20th. So that's your 5 players. It's 4 top 20s. That's really good.
Oh, yes, for sure. I also have to really commend Jess Baker for rebounding in round 3. She shot 1 over par in the first 2 rounds, and then shot 3 under it's par 70. I'm sorry. It's a 3. So 3 over in the first 2 rounds, and then shot 3 under in the last round. She catapulted 21 individual spots in the last round, and I think that really helped the UCF get the team win, which they got by 7 strokes over the College of Charleston. By the way, speaking of scores, UCF's team score, they scored a total of 841 on the tournament. Is that good? That is the lowest 54-hole total in program history. The last time UCF has gotten anywhere remotely close to that was 2014.
That's pretty good.
The now second place was an 843 score in October 2014. So almost exactly 7 years ago.
Now that's not relative to par though, but that's still
it is. It was a par 70.
Oh, it was? Okay.
It was a par 70. Yeah.
Now we don't know what the
Anton Rodapidden.
We don't know what the team rankings are right now, because the golf stat rankings for the women don't come out until November 17th. But I would suspect that UCF their rankings should probably be quite healthy. We're just going to have to file that away in our back pocket for the next month plus a week until we see those golf stat rankings come out. But
especially when we have Tanrata Pidden, because I also want to give kudos to her. Not only did she win the tournament by 5 strokes, which props to her. That was great. She got a hole-in-one on hole 7 in the last round. Another great. This is a weekend of her life. Her 200, also her 54-hole score, 200, is the lowest 54-hole individual score in UCF history. 3 strokes ahead of Elizabeth Moon in also from early October in 2018. So 3 years ago, with Elizabeth Moon. So Tanrata Pidden already has the single season average record at 71.9. She's currently beating it right now.
She's a star, man.
And then Tanrata Pidden is also now the 4th UCF women's golf player ever to get an individual victory, joining Kristen Putnam, Liz Early, and Ashley Holder, who Eric and I both mentioned in the UCF Hall of Fame live stream. So Tanrata Pidden is having herself a season right now, and I think she's definitely one to watch on this team going forward.
What a star, man. I love it. Emily Marin, keep killing it.
Hey, she told us to follow the women's golf Twitter account. I think the UCF fans have a really
Get on that, guys. Everybody. UCF_W golf. You know why they did? So I don't know why this was initially, but there used to be just one UCF golf account. It was just UCF_golf, and it followed both the men's and the women's. They've since split those accounts, but they turned the original account into the men's golf account, which is UCF_M golf. And then they created a new account for UCF women's golf, UCF_W golf. So guys, follow UCF_W golf right now on Twitter, please. They deserve it. This team's kicking it this year. They are wrecking everything in sight. Last thing we'll talk about, Bryson. The basketball schedules are officially out. You can check them all out on ESPN on, they're probably on ESPN, but they're on UCFathletics.com. The women's basketball season starts Tuesday, November the 9th, 6 p.m. at home against Duquesne. That following Friday, they play Tennessee at home. Home games also against Belmont, Arkansas, 4 straight on the road. Yikes. And then they play, they start conference play exactly a month after their last home non-conference game on January 2nd. That's a Sunday against Temple. In addition, men's basketball starts their season the day after women's starts theirs, which is Wednesday, November the 10th. They start with Robert Morris. Home games against Jacksonville, Oklahoma, Bethune-Cookman, North Carolina A&T, a neutral site game against Florida State, home for North Alabama, home for Michigan the day before New Year's Eve, December 30th. And they start conference play at SMU on January 2nd. That's also a Sunday. Home conference opener, January 5th, Wednesday against Temple. So impressions of the schedule right now, Bryson, because we thought it would be strong coming. We were getting, some things kind of trickling out. Eric was doing a good job of following that, but now it's officially out. I think the men's schedule is freaking brutal, man. This is going to be a tough schedule, but with a consistent team, I think this is going to be pretty solid.
Oh yes. With the women's basketball schedule, I would really want to keep an eye on that brutal 4-game road stretch, because going against Mercer, Seton Hall, Iowa, and Princeton, I would say that, especially with Iowa, who made the Sweet 16 last year in the NCAA women's basketball tournament, that is a very hard stretch, especially with the fact that you had Mercer, Seton Hall, and Iowa all within a single week.
Yeah. But what a weird road trip, because they go to Macon, Georgia to play Mercer. Then they go to New Jersey to play Seton Hall, out to Iowa, and then back to New Jersey to play Princeton before they come home.
Well, the big thing with
normally you would see those New Jersey dates back to back to cut down on travel.
True, but the thing with that one is that I think the good news is that the gap between Iowa and Princeton is very sizable. Like
it's an 11-day gap.
11 days, which you need 11 days rest after a week like that.
After 3 games in 6 days at Mercer, at Seton Hall, at Iowa, especially capping off Iowa at Carver Hawkeye Arena. That's a good point. So
that's definitely one to watch. I also would want to watch a game against Belmont. Belmont always has a really good basketball program on the women's side. Tennessee, certainly a story program. Great to have them here at the Bounce House, and that should be a great game to watch. Put some butts in seats, which would be really good. And then, of course, the Cancun Challenge. I mean, I think the fact that they're playing it on Thanksgiving, I think is going to be very interesting. USC has always been a good basketball program, and then they could play Idaho State as well. But, traveling for Thanksgiving certainly will be a very interesting thing for them to face, especially traveling internationally. So that will also be a very good one to watch as well. And what you said, and then as far as the men goes, I agree with what you said there. Great scheduling on Coach Johnny Dawkins' part, and I am very interested to see how he will proceed with the men's basketball program going forward.
Yeah, that's we'll break down the schedule a little bit more. One of the interesting things I think about the schedule this year, did you notice our conference opener is actually on the road? Forgive me, I thought it was at the start of January because New Year is start conference play, right? No. Conference opener is December 15th. That's a Wednesday night at Temple, 7 p.m. Now to me, that as a history guy, that's a callback to the old A Sundays. We used to have a conference weekend in December, in like early December, like a little conference preview week, like a little taste, right? Before you jumped back into non-conference play, and then conference play restarts again the rest of the way in the new year. So I'm interested to see why they did that. That's their last tune-up before Florida State, which is 3 days later. I like the fact that they have North Alabama at home Wednesday, December 22nd, 3 days before Christmas. Then you got the Christmas break 5 days after Christmas, Thursday, December the 30th, which is 8 days after North Alabama. You're home to play Michigan. So you should be well rested right before that Michigan game. And then that's your non-conference finale before you restart conference play after New Year's at SMU. So that's
yes,
that's going to be a good. I think where that game showed up in the schedule is a good gauge for where you are heading into conference season.
I agree with that. I would say this is a very balanced schedule for Johnny Dawkins. I mean, we just talked about how you had those really long road trips on the women's side, which I understand why you schedule those. But in the case of this, you don't see really much of anything that extreme in this. In fact, we have some pretty good home stretches as well. We have 3 straight home games with Temple, Tulsa, and Memphis to open conference play in earnest, to open conference play in earnest after you started an away game at SMU.
Yeah.
As far as the non-conference, they have Evansville at home. I've seen Evansville pop up in the NCAA tournament once or twice, and so I think that's
the Aces
a match to have, and then
look out for the Evansville Aces,
and then I always just college basketball. There's one thing that college basketball is known for, it's upsets, and I do not want to see that happen. And I think that Evansville, I maybe could do it. I hope they don't. But there's that. And then also a matchup that's looking very interesting to me is a neutral site match with Florida State in Sunrise, Florida, in the BB&T Center.
Mm-hmm. Yep, down in Sunrise. That's going to be that big Orange Bowl Classic match. So, all right. Last thing I want to wrap up with is actually late breaking tennis. All right. So UCF's individuals and some doubles teams are competing in the ITA All-American Championships. This is being held in the South Carolina, or the women are playing in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. The men are playing, it's hosted by Tulsa. And we got some late updates too, Bryson. I'm going to see if we can pull these together here real quick, because this is kind of like this ITA All-American is kind of like it's kind of like a major, right, for college tennis. And it's the big tune-up before they officially start the dual match season in the spring. So I want to start with the women's side. What results have we seen from UCF so far in this women's bracket?
So we have two women's single players in the All-American Championships. We have first off we have number 80 ranked Levashova. She unfortunately lost her first qualifying match. She was in the qualifying draw. She is competing now in the qualifying constellation bracket. She'll be facing against Utah's Madeline Lemereau for that. Good luck to her for the rest of the week. I hope she gets some good wins under her belt. But the big one to watch is going to be Valeria Zaleva, because breaking news because she just won her first her first round match in the main draw. Levashova was in the qualifying draw. Zaleva was locked into the main draw already. Mm-hmm. And she just beat Washington senior Vanessa Wong in 3 sets. She lost the first set 6-2, but then she rebounded to win the second set 6-4, and then the third set 6-1. She is ranked, I believe, in the top 20, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere close to that. So Zaleva will certainly be somebody to watch in the main bracket going forward in the women's singles side. So that's something to follow for that.
All right. What about on the men's side? Because Trey Hildebrand was in there. I think he had a match today. We're recording this on Wednesday, October 6th. Wasn't Trey playing today too?
He's playing twice today, actually.
Busy day for him.
Oh, for sure. So as far as he's playing as a single, I believe he is the only men's tennis player remaining now. Both he and his doubles playing partner, Bogdan Pavel, both made it to the main draw, but Bogdan Pavel lost in his first round match. So that means that Hildebrand is the last one standing there.
And forgive me, we just have to find. I have to update you on that too. This is just a few minutes ago. Trey fell in the main draw to number 27. His name is. They just have his last name, Braska of Mississippi State, 6163.
Yes,
which is a bummer.
That is a bummer. And now with Bogdan out in the singles, if I recall correctly, I believe you can double check.
I'm trying to pull up this bracket.
I have the bracket. I have.
You got the bracket, okay? Because I
have the bracket. It's complicated. I don't think they've even put the names of the winners on there yet. Okay, I got to complain a little bit about the ITA or the way this brackets worked a little bit, because the women's singles bracket I can't even find. But as far as the men's go, Hildebrand falls. Bogdan fell in the first round earlier, if I remember right. So that means that the last hope for UCF men's tennis in the ITA All-Americans comes from our trusty doubles duo of Pavel and Hildebrand. So it'll be interesting because Hildebrand is again he played earlier.
Florian Broska, by the way, is the name of the guy. I want to get his first name in there. Anyway, Broska, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. So in any case, so Hildebrand fell in the singles. He's going to have to get rest pretty quick because he's also going to be playing on today as we're recording this. He's going to be playing in a few hours in the doubles match with Bogdan Pavel against Texas duo Harper and Ciamara. I want to say that.
Yeah.
Bogdan Pavel are the number 1 seed in the men's.
Are we sure about that? Because I'm looking at the bracket and it says that in the round of 32, it's like 1 faces 2 and then 3 faces 4. So I'm not sure if they're the number 1
I don't know.
seed.
That's how I'm just reading the bracket. So if you want to,
I don't think they're the number 1 seed per se. I could be wrong, but
I mean, they have a name
because normally it would be 1 versus 32, I think. But I think this is just a quirk of how they're displaying the bracket on the website, where it's like 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4.
They have the seeds next to the school name, I think, is what it is, because you notice because they have numbers next to the school names. For example, the one they have Q's next to them. So the Texas duo has LL next to them, which I believe stands for lucky loser, which I've seen. And okay, on the other side of the bracket, Rodriguez and Thompson for South Carolina have a 2 next to them. Yes.
Okay, so wow, so Pavel and Hildebrand are the number 1 seed. Holy smokes.
They are.
Okay.
So they're going to be going against.
You're
right. So they're going to be going against the lucky loser pairing from Texas, who I guess made it from the qualifying draw through that metric, and they are and honestly, they're a nationally ranked duo. I think I've seen them ranked number 3 nationally. And so I would say of the men's tennis players, it's these 2 together that have been a highlight for this program. And I think we'll definitely be ones to watch, like we follow Gabe DeCamps in the spring.
Okay. All right. So excellent stuff. And then one little note. Don't want to forget them, but they deserve a shout out. Cross country. They won their home event, the UCF Invite, with over Florida, Jacksonville, FAU, Stetson, FIU, Lynn, a bunch of Florida schools. Top individual finisher is your girl, Bryson, Valerie Lastra. Once again, 16:57 in the 2.9 in the 3K, really.
2.9 mile
or 2.9 mile, right? Yeah.
Yep, that is what it says. I will
Cambry
say
Smith finished in 6th, 1 spot behind her. They were separated by 0.8 of a second. So
I have to imagine they were running together. I have to imagine they were running together, most likely. They're both fresh. They're both freshmen. And I know I've been gushing about Valerie Lastra this whole time, but quietly, we've seen other freshmen, Cambry Smith and Lillian Holtery as well, who Holtery placed 11th with a 17:21. And
Charlotte Crook also, who came on last year, finished 12th too.
Oh, so. Yes. She's one of the leaders in this program, being one of the only upperclassmen. There are so many freshmen on this cross-country team. It's insane.
And 7 runners in the top 16, more than anybody else. That's what gave UCF the win.
Oh, for sure. Especially because they are coming off of the floor of their Mountain Dew Invitational in Florida. So it was great that UCF won on their home turf, especially against Florida. Who had runners finishing in 2nd and 3rd. So, but yeah, I think honestly with this cross country team, I think the biggest thing is they held their own home turf, which I'm very excited about for them to do. But also just this youth on this cross country team is really impressing me. And then of course even Charlotte Crook, who came on last year, and she's one of the only upperclassmen, and she's performing very well as well. But youth wise, Valerie Lastra, Cambry Smith, Lillian Holtery, I mean, especially with Lastra, who has already been setting records and already getting Amory Blaney comparisons. I'm excited to see what this cross country program is going to be capable of, not just this season, but over the next 4 seasons. I mean, if we've been talked about Renaya Jones in the track season, I would say that Valerie Lastra has the potential to be a Renaya level player for distance running.
That's high praise. That's high praise. All right, Bryson, I'm going to hold you to that. Mark down the date and time you said that. All right. That is going to wrap it for us. Bryson, thank you so much for that recap. You can follow Bryson at It's Bryson Turner, following all the latest in UCF's Olympic sports action. You can follow us individually. I am at Jeff_Sharon. Eric is at Eric Lopez Elo. Drew is at Statboy Drew. You can follow us collectively at UCF_Banneret. You can also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. And of course, you can subscribe to our podcast if you don't already on Apple Podcasts. If you're a iOS user, on the other hand, if you're an Android user, you can follow us on Spotify, subscribe to us there, or wherever you get your devices. Special thanks to Afia Charles Wilson for joining us. Congratulations to her and all the Hall of Fame inductees for this weekend, of course. But there's 2 people that we want to say a very special thank you to as we wrap up here. I want to say a special thank you to Danny Medina, who announced this past week that she will no longer be writing for us at Black and Gold Banneret. She's up in Nashville working for USA Today and the Gannett Network. And all of you guys know Danny from Twitter. I feel personally extremely lucky to have worked with Danny in the short time that she was a part of us at Black and Gold Banneret. She made a tremendous impact to all of us. And Danny, thank you so much. Best of luck. Stay in touch. And we're eternally grateful for you and everything you did. And especially, and I also want to say a very special thank you to our friend Jeremy Brenner, who also is moving on to greener pastures. He's actually not going to be leaving the UCF bubble too much. He's actually, he'll be sticking around. I'll let him actually tell you where he's going to be going, but he won't be going far away. Jeremy came on when we joined SB Nation, and is just, I swear he's one of like triplets that like the other 2 we don't know about or don't see, because this man writes for something like 6 different sites, is a phenomenal producer, is a brilliant writer, knows content in and out, and really helped us transition well from the independent blog that we were to an SB Nation site. He has great news sense, amazing on social media, and has helped me navigate the last couple of years so much. And, has always tried has been always willing to put up with my flights of fancy and trying new things. And, I feel very lucky to have worked with him the last few years with Black and Gold Banneret. And Jeremy, I just want you to know, congratulations on everything you've done. Thank you so much for everything that you did for me and for us. I'm so proud of you. And I'm going to miss you in our chats as always, but you deserve every bit of success that's coming to you, because you're a fantastic reporter, a fantastic producer. Best of luck to you in all your endeavors, and never stray too far. In fact, I won't let you stray too far. I'm really happy for you. Go ahead, Bryson.
That goes ditto for me. I just wanted to say my quick piece about I was brought on in April, and I could not have felt more welcome by the staff, which includes Jeremy and Danny. I'm gonna miss their game day guides. That was Danny. Also recently graduated from UCF journalism program, of which I am a part of right now. So felt a little bit of a kindred spirit there with her, since she's on the young side with me. So, but she's off to greener pastures, and I wish the best of luck to her as well. And then Jeremy, I hosted night shift with him after the Bethune-Cookman game, and I just want to say it was a great to do that with him, and also for him to do that, for putting together the Knights of the Round Table, which has been a very fun thing to write for. So, I know I didn't know, I wasn't on the staff with either of them long, but I appreciate everything they've done, and I'm very excited to see what they'll be doing next.
And I'm especially thankful for the two of them. I'm going to be very sad that they won't be with us actively anymore. But I'm really so happy that I got the chance to work with both of them because they're so brilliant. So Jeremy, Danny, I know you guys have always been very close friends, and I am so thankful for the two of you. Best of luck going forward, and stay in touch. All right. So for all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thanks for listening. We will catch you next week. Enjoy the ECU game. Charge on.